The way your jaw is going to hit the floor, get ready. You know the tea is hot when I made a graph. We need to talk about the family tree of the first director of the CIA, Allen Dulles. In 1920, Allen married Clover. An obituary written about Clover stated that she traveled all over the world with her husband and performed many duties around culture, art, and had many intricate duties as the first lady of the CIA. I thought that was really interesting. What do you mean, the first lady? The details get more suspicious from here. So as you can see down here, it states that she's survived by her son, Alan, and two daughters, Jens and Joan. I found conflicting evidence about their children because as you see down here, it states they have a son named Alan, two daughters named Clover Todd and Joan. The story keeps getting more and more strange, so bear with me. So just so we cover it, I can guarantee that yes, Alan and Clover did have one son and two daughters. No matter what documents I found, that is confirmed. But the variable that keeps changing is the name of one of the daughters. There's two different versions of the story that I'm finding, and I'm finding multiple documents that back up both versions of the story, which makes it even more weird. So story A is Alan and Clover had a son named Alan, a daughter named Joan, and a daughter named Jens. The other version of the story is they have a son named Alan, a daughter named Joan, and a daughter named Clover. So Jens is the one that is kind of Jens and Clover are the ones that are kind of the oddballs out. And it gets worse. Before moving on, I do want to point out that I have confirmed that Alan and Joan are legitimate because they have in his obituary that he had to be taken care of by Joan. And so I've got them confirmed. So now it leaves Jens and Clover. I think I found out why they have two different versions of who's their daughter because I found that Jens and Clover got married. Not only that, but Clover's dad walked her down the aisle. So you can't say that her parents didn't know or their parents didn't know. I don't know. Because again, the details just get more fuzzy from here. I found multiple documents talking about the wedding. And again, it confirmed that it is Clover, Alan's daughter. And they used the full name of Jens that is listed for Alan's daughter in other documents. So it gets really strange. But then they go ahead and give detail about the bride, Clover, saying how she graduated from Chapel in New York. In the Second World War, she served in the OSS, again, part of the CIA, just a different branch. Then they confirmed even further the family connection of, yes, this is the daughter, so I have it all correct. But here's where it gets interesting. They state at the bottom, they start talking about the groom, but they say the bridegroom. That's how they refer to Jens, keeping in mind that they're supposed to have two daughters. So Jens should be a girl from my understanding. However, down here, they use the pronouns he. So I'm not sure if Jens was transitioning. But again, there's either way, they are sisters. So is it that they're sisters and one of them transitioned to a male and they got married, or that they're half siblings and they got married? Either way, they're related and they got married. Of course, my next question is going to be, who is Jens? And I literally could not find anything except for this one document. It states, Jens was a former international banking executive. He retired as the vice president of the Bankers Trust Company. And again, down here confirming the marriage, it said, he's survived by his wife, Clover, and they had children together. Two daughters, Clover and Jonah, and two sons, Alan and Per. So let's look at that. The first director of the CIA and the first lady of the CIA named two of their children after themselves. For then two of their children to get married to each other and then have four children and name three out of the four similar names to their siblings. This, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is just screaming red flag, red flag. Are you all agents? What's up? Are we trying to manipulate SEO? What's going on? As I was weeding through documents, I noticed that Switzerland, specifically Zurich, Switzerland, kept popping up. Also, notice the discrepancy issue yet again. They say that Joan is from Switzerland, not Jens. All right, but so they were in Switzerland at some point in time and they're traveling around the world. But here's the thing. Alan was not what we would say a faithful man, and he had many affairs, one of them being his first spy that he assigned. Meet Mary the Mistress. Not only was she an agent for Alan and, helped to give all kinds of information to him, among other things, well, she ended up becoming friends with his wife, Clover, because Clover, she knew that her husband wasn't going to be faithful. She ended up just accepting that that's what he was going to do. They became friends. Whatever. Basically, something interesting about that. Both of them, Clover and Mary, decided to become clients of Carl. You're going to know who he is in just a second. Carl Gustav was a very prominent figure. Not only was he a psychoanalyst that helped profile Hitler, but he actually has worked in psychology and worked alongside Sigmund Freud. After learning that both the wife and mistress were clients of Carl, I looked back at Jens's marriage. And whenever I looked at it, this caught my eye. At the very bottom, it says, John Gustav Jebsen was the best man for his brother, Jens Henrik Jebsen. So is it possible that Jens is a love child of Clover and Carl? I don't know, but either way, they're still related. So why did they get married? Another odd piece to the puzzle. I found something here that said Alan was the CIA director from 1973 to 75. Here's the problem. His grave says that he died in 1969. So what are we talking about? So what happened to Alan? Because I found other documents that state this, that he was awarded the National Security Medal, which is the nation's highest award for intelligence, and was awarded by President John Kennedy. That was November 28th, 1961. The very next day, he retired. You see my dilemma here. The last piece that I found interesting was Alan's relationship with President Kennedy. So it says that they had bumped heads and Alan wasn't afraid because to him, he was just a mere president, not big. Alan was described as someone that undermined and betrayed every president he served under. Not a good look. Alan and Kennedy bumped heads quite a bit, and Kennedy was not about to let Alan continue to just roll over him. So he forced him into a retirement. Although he was supposed to be retired, he was still trying to act as if he was still the acting director of the CIA. And going behind Kennedy's back and talking crap about him to everyone he possibly could, telling them to undermine Kennedy. Although they didn't get along, Kennedy still awarded Alan the National Security Medal, which is the nation's highest award for intelligence. The very next day, Alan retired. But here's the thing. Even though Alan didn't like him, once the A happened to Kennedy, Alan came out of retirement and was the leader and the lead investigator for investigating into the A of Kennedy. Also, that same weekend, he just happened to go bunker down at one of the safe houses at the CIA. Why is he bunkering down the same weekend of the A of Kennedy? Unless he had a heads up or knew something was going to go down. This is all alleged, so take with a grain of salt. What do you guys think of all of this? And if you guys can help me put any of these pieces together, let me know. This is huge. As always, this is all alleged, so take it with a grain of salt and follow me for more.